Look at this. Look at the battling, and it is a safety car. Here comes Mika into slow corner. Whoa! Almost! And away we go here in the Netherlands for F1 down towards the next cover. Oh, it is! Oh my god! Whoa! Bit of a season as Nolo wins! In Monza for FRLT Tier 1 of 4. And right beneath! Oh, he goes! Hello, and welcome to FRLT Season number 5, and it's time for round number 7 of the Force Championship. Yes, we return once again here, another Sunday. Last week we were at Las Vegas. This week we have a full grid, which is interesting, I have to say, to be back to a full grid. So let's have a quick look at the track map for this week. We come to Brazil, yes, Sao Paulo. 4.309 kilometers, 2.677 miles, 15 turns, 2 turns down that pit straight and down that back straight between turn 3 and 4. Of course, almost center S first 3 corners. Very interesting track. Quite a bit of elevation in that second sector, of course. It sort of goes quite up towards, I believe, if I'm correct, that would be turn number 6 and 7. As you can see, a lot of elevation there. Looking at the calendar, it's looking very interesting because we've now gone through Abu Dhabi, Monza, Spain, Imola, Austria, and Las Vegas last week. And now we come to Brazil before we go to Great Britain next week. Then we have a lovely break week before we go to Bahrain, then Qatar, and then Australia to end off the season on the 21st of the 9th. So in just over a month's time, I cannot believe the Force calendar is going to be coming to an end. I mean, these are the last 5 races of the season, which I cannot believe at all. I just cannot believe at all. We're going to be going in a minute or two. We're waiting on one driver. And we are about to get going. We're about to get underway now. Full grid. So we're about to get underway, but before we get underway, let's have a quick look at the lovely thing of the standings just in a second, once I double check that I've gotten everything correct. Yep, everything is correct there. Just making sure I've gotten everything correct. Don't want anything going wrong. So, looking at the standings, as you can see, SKG retake the lead of the championship after a victory in Las Vegas. AZR was on to continue to lead the championship and take a big chunk out of SKG and really go far in the lead of the championship until it all started to fall apart for them last week. So SKG, P1, P4, they had all 4 drivers finish in the points, but I can only show the top 2 positions because the screen is not wide enough. But SKG take the lead of the championship by 10 points into this week. UFRT follow not really closely behind, 42 points behind the championship, behind second 52 points behind first. Good week, though. Pulled themselves quite a bit out of the danger zone of being overtaken by Peck. Peck having quite a big struggle, and the same for TDR. DNFs all round for TDR. No finish for TDR last week. All of their 3 drivers that they raced all retired. So it's a bit of disappointment there. But we have finally made it into qualifying this evening. It's great to be back, I have to say. It is very, very nice to be back. And with a full grid as well. With a full grid. That makes it, I'd say that makes it a little bit more interesting to have a full grid here at Brazil. For this race, of course, it makes it a lot. Yeah, I did, Dan. I did. But Clipsy retires because SKG had a late swap, didn't have a reserve in place, so it meant that ultimately they have to serve a qualifying ban. Not going to help themselves to start off the evening, I will say, but we have got one car heading out of the pits. That's Kimi on his way out. He's raced quite a few times for UFRT this season. Let's see how he's going to do as he makes his way round here in little bits of lag. Makes his way round in Brazil for the first time. It's interesting to see because drivers like Kimi have a good amount of strength. That he scored quite a few points for UFRT this season. Oh, Jesus Christ. I don't know whether that's me with the lag or not. I feel like I don't think that's me because I'm not seeing the same problem with Hislar. Like if we just watch him for a minute, I'm not seeing any lag with Hislar, so it might genuinely just be him. But we'll watch on board with Kimi as he makes his way around. Of course, a very short outlap it is around this track, which is odd. It's quite strange already. You know, so quickly the drivers have already made their way around to start off the first runs. But Kimi starts to make his way down towards turn 1. Brakes quite on point, just about on point. Ooh, loses the rear massively and invalidates out of turn 2, which is not a good start. To his then to add to it a little bit more lag, we've got Rob, his teammate, who's also come out. He's going to have a little bit of traffic. And into turn number 4. Not too bad from Rob, making his way around. He's got a car right in the way there. That was a TDR driver, I believe. I think that was Ben, who was having a bit of a moment there. Sadly, Rob has his teammate up next, giving him a little bit of slipstream, but also giving him dirty air, which is not helping at all. Oh, and Rob loses the rear. And that's what happens when you get a lot of dirty air. And I don't think Rob will be too happy with that, but both UFRT drivers struggling out of their first runs. Not a great start for the team this evening. Not a good start at all. As he's going to pull into the pits now, along with his teammate. Maybe a little bit of annoyance there. I suspect quite a bit of annoyance will be going on. We've then got AWR. Then we've got to look back to Mardi. See, Kimi is retired. And the box is officially the first driver's test lap at a 1:07.039 to start off the session. Yanni Casares can't beat his teammate across the line. Still in the 1:07.0s. Speed G-Master can only go P3. He's a bit off there. He's over 3/10, about 3.5 tenths behind provisional pole. His last further behind. He's gone really slow on his lap. Sakata can only do 1:08.1, so he sets really far behind, 1.1 seconds behind provisional pole so far. So he has got a long way to go. Batiste making his way around. He's been on a slow lap, I think. He's been on a very slow lap. He still goes ahead of his teammate, though, even though it was a slow lap. But I don't suspect that was a full-on lap, so can't expect a lot there. AWR making his way around now. Let's see what he can do in that car, needing a big evening. Very big evening. Across the line, he goes P4. And then Marty in P3 for AZR. Not too bad there. Not too bad at all. Quite a lot closer, 1 minute 7.1 as well. So right there on the cusp. Waiting to see Ruben goes P6. Not a bad lap. His line now improves to P5. Good lap there. Zotic for SKG into the 1 minute 6s. I thought we would be hitting maybe the 1 minute 6s, maybe on the second run, probably the final run. But already 1 minute 6.9. 6.2 to begin tonight. Already within the first few minutes of tonight's qualifying, we're already getting some very big lap times. Batiste as well across the line. He goes P5 now. 1 minute 7.3. So AZR looking a bit off in pace. Looking at least about 0.2 off in pace from provisional pole. But SKG 1, 2, 3. And their only other driver in the Ferrari has retired. That's the only other reason why. So at the moment, pretty perfect evening is what I would say for AZR at the moment. Frank Tank is making his way round and up to the line. He can only go P9. We've got to look to Dark Ben next. He's coming across the line. He goes P11, so not as good. 1 minute 7.8, so a bit of a rough lap for himself. Looking to who's next. I think that's somebody just crossed the line. I think that was Speed G Master. Yeah, he improved by 400ths. Improved by one place to P5. So bit of a difficult one there. Not exactly what he was looking for. Somebody just crossed the line. That was Top G who crossed the line and went P8. 1 minute 7.4. UFRT getting some pace out of the car this evening. Getting some sort of pace. Vibe and Rog can only go into P15 when he crosses the line. Nilo goes P9, 1 minute 7.5. Not a bad lap there for himself, but everybody pretty close on pace at the moment, I have to say. A lot of people very close on pace. Looking round for a driver who is on a lap. I don't think anybody is on a lap currently. I'm trying to find somebody. I know a few people are on out laps. I know that. It's going to be Rob who's next on an out lap and starting his lap. Let's see what he can do. Heading down into turn 1, you've got to get the car turned, and he wasn't able to last time. He's done a bit better this time, and through turn 1, 2, and 3, he's made his way round with complete ease. That car looking a little bit easier to run with on this second attempt. 17.244 for the middle sector. That isn't too bad. Through turn 4 and 5, now he's coming up towards turn 6 and 7. There's 6, there's 7, now straight into turn 8, and he invalidates just before turn 8, and that's a big mistake to make, and just not being able to find the lap he needs at the moment. I believe Sakata also is on a lap as well, making his way around. You can see again, running quite wide, but this time Sakata, even though running much wider through turn, I believe that would be turn 6 and 7, he still was able to keep it within the track limits, and that's a big thing around this track, is keeping it within the track limits. There's so many places where you can validate, or you can get a warning during the race, and that, 3 warnings is a penalty, which ultimately means by the end of it, after 3 warnings, you get that 3-second time penalty for track limits, and that's a very risky thing around this track. It happens all the time, as Sakata can only go into P14 when he crosses the line there. Not the best of runs from himself. We've got Mad Max Trixie making their way around now into the final sector. The final sector is very simple. The final sector very much is just kind of one corner, I'd say. That's really all it is, one corner. And it's just a dash to the line. And across the line, it's P10 for Mad Max Trixie. Not too bad from the Alpine there. Not too bad at all. Not too bad from the TDR driver. I have to say, very, very good. Very, very good there. Sorry, I had to pause for a second. I was having to check something. You can see there's quite a few drivers making their way around. I don't know who's doing what at the moment. I think we've got Yanni Casares coming up the line next. Then we've got a Haas. Is that Sakata? Yes, that is Sakata who's coming in. So the next driver is going to be an Aston Martin. That's Marty making their way around. And across the line, an improvement of 57 thousandths and goes into P3 for AZR, challenging SKG quite a bit. That's what we like to see. I have to say that is what we like to see here. I think Batiste is just starting a lap. I'm waiting to see who's crossing the line next. That's Zotic. Somebody's coming into the pits. I think we've got Toro. Toro's invalidated, but was up by 0.4 of a second in the middle sector. So the team rundown at the moment, SKG on top. Then it's AZR, Peck. Then it's kind of difficult. It's between UFRT and TDR. At the moment, I'd say at the moment probably TDR, and then it's difficult. So I think Speed G Master went quickest of all. I didn't even notice that for a minute. I didn't even notice 1 minute 6.929. That is incredible. Peck might be looking at a pole position here. Batiste goes P3. That invincible look that SKG had at the start of this evening doesn't look like it's there. Zotic now goes fastest by 0.101 tenths of a second ahead of Speed G Master and ahead of Peck. That's a very strong fight for provisional pole. It's a very strong fight at the moment. I think it's really coming down between SKG, Peck, and AZR. I have to say all three of them into those times. Frank Tank goes into P7 ahead of Hislar. Hislar, I think, did not improve on that lap. No, he didn't, so it's a bit of disappointment there. Not what he needed. Nilo as well improved. He went to P7, so that's a strong improvement for himself, and that's what AZR need tonight, especially with SKG having one driver having a qualifying ban. I do have to quickly invite a driver, and I do apologise, guys. I do have to invite a driver because he disconnected. It is Kimmy that we're missing. Seems like it was frames per second he was struggling with earlier, so it looks like a couple of connection problems with EA, but what's new? What's new? Hislar making his way around. See, Rob, I think, has just done a lap. Yeah, Rob's just done a lap. Sakata has also just done a lap. There's quite a few people have done laps, I think. I don't think there's anyone else running out on track. I don't believe there's anyone. It might be Nilo. I think Nilo might be the only one still going around for another run at the moment. Rob's going slowly anyway. Top G, is he moving quickly? No, not quick enough. He's going quite slowly. Looks like he's going to be just going back to the pits as well. No, Sakata's actually improving. Sakata's on a run, but now slows down. Obviously not the time he needs. Nilo heading round though. There is a McLaren out on track. That's the box for the next lap. I think we can see, I think that's Sakata going for another run. Getting a good and clear track out there. But I do have to say that at the moment, Nilo invalidates as well. So not great for Nilo. He's going to have to come back in. He should have time to be able to get back into the pits and go for another run. 4 drivers out on track at the moment. Nilo's being joined by Mardi as well. But these, for the 3 drivers now, it is going to be their final run. So we're going to have to see how they do. Sakata is on a lap. Up by 33 thousandths at the moment. making his way through the middle sector. Let's see what Sakata can do. Has he got enough fuel to begin with? Yes, he does. He's down by a tenth, so I don't think he's going to be finding that time at all. But the box up by 4 thousandths of a second in the first sector. So a little bit of time being found. Of course, it's a very difficult sector to find a huge amount of time. Unless you make a big mistake, it's very, very difficult to find time. And now, Sakata now retires. He feels like he can't do anymore. Not sure why he's retired on track, though. And out of the middle sector, up by 39 thousandths of a second. So we'll be exactly on a 1 minute 7.0. Let's see, can he make up that time in the final sector? Can he possibly push for P4? This is his final run. Remember, this is all that he's got. Across the line, he does the exact same lap time. No change. It's the exact same lap time set by the box from his second run to his third. Absolute madness going on. Mardy has also invalidated, which I believe would... No, he's got some extra fuel, so it might be enough for one more run. But that is very disappointing for himself. Hislar, I think, just is on his run. He's going slowly, so maybe another lap he's going on. But quite a few more drivers. Everybody's now spilling out onto the track. That's being led by, I believe, Yannick Casares, who has been the first one to come out on his outlap out of this big group. So far it's being led, but pretty much everybody heading out onto the track now. I've got to invite Kimi again. Of course I've got to invite Kimi. Where's Kimi? Where's Kimi? And there we go. Let's see, what can Yannick Casares do? Let's run on board with Yannick Casares on his final run here. P6 at the moment. He needs to find about 0.3 of a second to steal provisional pole, to steal pole position tonight, I should really say. He's up by 38 thousandths in his first sector. That's not too bad. His teammate, the box, retires, knowing he can't do any more. So that's some disappointment for one side of SKG, knowing that pole is out of the question. 2 SKG drivers are done, only 2 remain, and 1 is on his final lap at the moment. There's a lot of traffic in that final sector. My question is, will that traffic move by the time Yannick Casares reaches it? Because there is a slow Aston Martin going round. So is that Aston Martin going to stay out of the way as he makes his way around? There's the Aston Martin. And now Yannick Casares up by 1/10 of a second. This will be about P4 at the moment. So still 2 places up for grabs for Yannick Casares. Now he heads down towards the line. Where is Yannick Casares going to go? He's going to go P4. He just slots in behind Baptiste in third. We've got to look to an Alpine. That is AWR, and that's the end of qualifying. Mardy ultimately ends his qualifying session there. Now, heading up to the line, where is AWR going to go? What can he do when he crosses the line? He doesn't improve on his lap. He stays in his position. Dart Ben does the same. He stays in P15. I think that's a UFRT driver coming in. We've got Vibe and Rog coming up to the line. He stays in P18, even though improving by half a second. There goes Mad Max Trixie into P7. And what a lap. Top G can only go P10. Speed G Master goes into 1 minute 6.771. That is the time to beat. Baptiste couldn't improve. That's him done. We're looking around for somebody to find some time. I think we've just seen Rob improve to P8. And that's a great lap for himself. Toro now goes P7. What a lap found. And Zotic is done. He hasn't improved. He's made too many mistakes. Same as Yannick Casares, who's also in. And that is the end of qualifying. Speed G Master and Peck are on pole position. What a lap from himself. What a lap, I have to say. Absolutely incredible. What a lap to see from himself. Absolutely incredible. But let's go through the order. Speed G Master is on pole, followed by Zotic, Baptiste, Yannick Casares, The Box, Mardy, Toro, Mad Max Trixie, Rob, Nilo, Frank Tank, Top G, Hislar, Ruben, AWR, Dark Ben, Sakata, Vibin Raj, Kimmy, and Clips. What an end to qualifying that was. I have to say, I am actually very surprised by the way that qualifying went. That was an interesting qualifying. I did not expect to see Peck on pole. I think it's very much been between AZR and SKG all season. You know, it's been between AZR and AZR and SKG, I should say, all season. UFRT have had a couple of glimpses race results-wise. I think every team has had a glimpse at being quickest in qualifying. But when it's come down to the race, it's always been SKG. It's always been AZR. It's been those two teams from round 1 to, round 6. Do I think here in round 7 we're going to see a change? Maybe. We might see a change. If I was to give you my honest opinion, I could see it happening. Like, I wouldn't say to you, it's not going to happen. Like, I'm not going to say that to you. I can see it happening. Do I think it's entirely realistic that we could still see Peck come out with a win? Yes. But we're going to have to see because, of course, AZR and SKG are very much crowding up that top 8 tonight. It's very much, both the teams are crowding up those top 8 positions. So it's very much UFRT, UFRT, TDR, and Peck who sit in those bottom 12 places usually. Or more sort of maybe push for the top 6 in some races. But it's mostly this season been, SKG and AZR 1-2 swapping places race on race. And then, in third has usually been in qualifying UFRT. I wasn't able to get the qualifying stats for a graphic tonight, sadly. I wasn't able to get that. I ran out of time, but I didn't sadly have the time to make it. But I will say, so far, qualifying, the fastest team has been so far this season SKG. They have been the quickest team in qualifying. Then it's AZR, who are shockingly, they're actually within an average of about 800ths. So they are very, very close behind in the average qualifying. They're right on the back. And then in third isn't even UFRT, it's actually Peck. Peck are in third on average this season. And then it is, I think it's then on the exact same deficit or very, very close. I can't remember exactly. I had it noted down on the graphic, but it wasn't fully made. Somebody else noted it down for me. I got somebody to do it, so I don't have it. But I can hear we're about to get going into the race. And it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. And away we go here in Brazil for FRLT 4, Season 5, round number 7. And it's a great getaway from Speed G Master, but he's already under attack by Zotic into turn 1. Zotic has the inside line. Now it heads to Speed G Master's side, already heading through turn 3. It's a brilliant start by the Peck driver, but it's also been a good start by the SKG driver of Zotic. Everybody makes it round turn 3 reasonably okay, and now into turn 4, side by side between Speedmaster and Zotic. And Speed G Master just able to hold on to the lead for the moment, but you can see Zotic all over the back. And look further back, Batiste is also under attack from Yannick Casares, as Yannick Casares is able to make the move past. But look at this, already Batiste going down the inside once again of the McLaren. And that is an absolutely brilliant move and defense from Yannick Casares all in one go within just about 5 seconds. Here goes Batista again, locking up those rears slightly. You can see those rears sliding as he didn't want to hit into the back of Yannick Casares. The box also had a bit of a look at a move there at the same time. You can see a little bit of battling further back. Hislar battling with Dark Ben, and oh, that's round, and oh, that is contact. Hislar gets damage, and I think somebody else has also gotten damage. I think that is Kimmy, who's also suffered damage. Yes, he has. AWR also making his way past Dark Ben for position, and that is up to P12 for AWR, and a good move for himself. That's a move that he needed in that TDR car, but here comes Zotic now around the outside. He's got that speed of the DRS, and Zotic confirms the move this time. He wasn't able to do it into turn 4 on lap 1, but he's done it here on lap 2. But the main problem he's got is that Speed G-Master, if he's quick enough through the corners, he's going to be able to keep up with that DRS. But so far, it's been a good start for SKG, who have retaken the lead, who've gotten the lead from losing out on pole, has gotten Yanni Casares up to P3 in the box in P5. And their teammate Clips might be down in P17. Oh, that's a massive slide for Zotic. Clearly his tyre's not too happy. Ruben as well, having a bit of a move on Frank Tank for P8 in this race. Remember, it's only 3 points for P8. That's trying to gain that extra point. Every point matters to these teams, and you can see it's really mattering to them here tonight. It really matters to them, I should really say. My English going out the window. Oh my god! And that was one squeeze and a half for Speed G-Master around the outside. Has he gotten it? No, he hasn't. You can see Yanni Casares all the way up on the back of him as well at the same time. Everybody's all over him, heading down towards turn 4. Is he going to go right? He's going to go left, down the inside. He's still there. He's just putting Zotic off, and he's been able to make his way back past the turn 4. Seems to be the corner of moves for the lead here tonight. And it's just been between simply these front two at the moment. But Zotic clearly struggling on his tyres very slightly. But let's get up all of the graphics now. Up on here. Let's get all of them up. You can see so far Ruben has gained a lot of places. Up 5. Marty is down 12. Mad Max Trixie down 9. Hislar down 7 as well. So not a good start for them. Nobody stopped. Mostly medium tyres. Hard tyres for Top G, Dark Ben and Hislar. So far not too bad for those drivers at all, but it's been a brilliant start from the front leaders. No real big crashes, no massive problems so far. Everybody's keeping it pretty clean, and Zotic this time, before even turn 1, makes the move, and you can see Yanni Casares again trying to get that move, but almost hitting into the back of Zotic there. Once again, Speed G-Master, I have to say, he's getting a little bit close to the back of that Ferrari, and it's getting a little bit toasty for the battle over P2, P3 and the lead. And again, Yanni Casares trying to go round the outside. Remember, for SKG, this would confirm their championship lead completely, coming out of round 7 and going into round number 8 in Great Britain next week. Would completely and utterly complete. It would very much bring them one step closer to the championship and taking the championship as well. For SKG, all they need is one good race over AZR, and they will have a massive lead in the championship, which might be very difficult or nearly impossible to beat. Remember, 11 races in this season, and this is round 7. So after this, only 4 races, and the points are very close. Ruben, somebody's gone round. That is Rob who's gone round, and that's a massive mistake for Rob. Clipsy gets past. Who else is going to get past? Is he going to give anyone else a really tough time? Mad Max Trixie trying to get past as well, but doesn't get past in the end. But look at this. Batiste down the inside with a big dive bomb there from the RB. And that is a brilliant move. A very late dive bomb, but a brilliant dive bomb nonetheless. Mad Max Trixie having a bit of a moment again. Battling over position now. Isn't battling over P15 now. Battling over P17. Something's gone on there. There goes Kimmy down the inside. Making the move. And there goes Mad Max Trixie off the track. And with front wing damage as well to add on to it. Mardy now making his way up into P15. And that's a brilliant move up the order. Dark Ben down the inside. Trying to go around the outside. Trying to make that move. Ooh, contact. Pushing. Cars coming to pushes and shoves there, and round the next corner. Tight again. This time it's going to open up. It's going to be a good battle. Ultimately, a couple of scrapes, but no hearts broken yet in this race for either of these two. But we've just got to look one position up the field, because Top G is trying to get past Nilo here for position. They're absolutely equal with each other, just flying down the pit straight. Neither of them able to really pull past the other, and there goes Top G into P9. Using a bit of that battery, of course. And that's a great position made up. Sakata as well, making the position. Mad Max Trixie pulls into the pits for the first time. First driver to pull into the pits this race, I believe, other than maybe Hislar. I'm not sure. I think Hislar's the only other one that's pulled into the pits so far this race. Rob as well into the pit lane at the same time. Mardy makes his way past Sakata for P15 again. It's this 5-driver group down to just 3. Looking interesting though. Zotic still leads away in this race. SKG have the most laps led this season. I know, it's shocking, isn't it? SKG have the most laps led. Well, I wouldn't really say shocking. I very much expected them to have the most laps led out of any team so far this season. They've been incredible race on race, and it's just surprising to see how many laps they genuinely have led. They've led over 60% of all laps this season. AZR have led the other about 20 odd percent, nearly 30. As I'm reading here, from what I can see, SKG have led 61% of the laps this season from my count on there. In my notes, they've led 61% before this race. Sakata retires, and that's the first retirement of the evening. It's on track as well. Nilo battling over P10 down to P11 now. AWR and Top G both getting past the Aston Martin and the AZR driver very quickly. But I have to say, SKG have led 61% of the laps this season, following not massively, not closely really. AZR have actually led the other about 34%. So yes, 95% of laps this season have been led by either SKG or AZR. And in the last 3 races, only from what it says here, only 8 laps have been led by other teams in the last 3 races. So that just kind of shows the just pure dominance of these top 2 teams. Next, I mean, Peck has led 2% of laps this season. Sorry, 3%. And UFRT have led also the other 2%. TDR have yet to lead a lap this season, by the way. From this count. This isn't... I haven't counted this, by the way. Somebody counted it for me. I got somebody to do it because I did not have the time today to do it. But somebody went and did it. And from their count, TDR haven't even led a single lap this season, which is shocking to say that, you know, there are still some teams out there that haven't led a lap on the grid. Unless they're wrong, which if memory serves me right, they might be. Rob now retires from the race, the second retirement of the evening, only 8 laps in as well. Oh, so early into the race, and already 2 drivers out, and on to lap 9 we go. The box comes in on his mediums. He feels like the mediums are already done, going on to lap 8. 7 laps on the medium tyres, and he's already swapping to the hard tyres. So he feels like the medium's already gone after just 7 laps of running. That's not great. UFRT down a driver, Peck down a driver as well. Not looking too good, and the box has gotten stuck. This game is interesting. And that's the box who's just lost about, from my count, about 10 seconds behind the ghost of Rob. That's strange. I've never seen that before. I've not seen that. And so that's an interesting new glitch. And I will say that is quite unfair to the box today. He should not be... He should be ahead of these 3 drivers, by the way. By quite a big chunk. He should be ahead of all 3 of them. But now he's dropped 10 seconds because of that. Kimmy gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. The first penalty of the evening, which I'm very surprised by now. The top... Looks like the top 5 all head into the pits. Yeah, the top 5 have all come in. We've also got Nilo on his way in. Interesting to see. Swaps already. Hard tyres going on for one. Hard tyres going on for the other behind. Yanni Casares. Does Batiste get in front? Yes, he does. He's just able to get in front of Yanni. And that's actually, I believe, that's actually saved him. That's actually gained him a position, if I'm correct. Dark Ben in P4 now. Of course, going on those hard tyres. Ruben isn't. Top G is. But Ruben now leads the race. He's going to be leading his first lap of the evening. And Peck gaining another lap led. I think that will be 3 laps led tonight for Peck. Maybe the percent, of course, after this, percentages will start to change a little bit more. SKG would have led a bit more of the season. Peck as well, leading a little bit more of the season. But like I said, the laps led this season, the amount of control AZR and SKG have had over this grid, the fact they've controlled just over 95% of the racing, 95 laps led. As now UFRT get another lap, actually. They're going to get another lap for a stat. But still, I believe, from what I've been told, is the stats, TDR haven't led a single lap this season. Which, if from my memory, I feel like that's wrong. I don't believe that's correct from my memory. I just have a feeling, that isn't correct. I swear I remember Dark Ben leading a race as Kimi now retires. That's a second driver who retires. 3 drivers still out. AWR on those medium tyres, but it's Dark Ben and Top G on the hards. Top G having actually a decent race, quite far ahead of Dark Ben. He's got quite a big gap to the drivers behind. He's got about 13-14 seconds. But yeah, it's difficult. It seems to be quite strange for everyone, but Toro makes his way past into P8, past Vibe and Roger. That's a good position made up on some fresh tyres. But yeah, it's interesting to see because, all of these teams, like the way everybody seems to be leading just kind of very much just comes back to the thing of just 2 teams dominating. It reminds me of the 2021 and very much the 2023 F1 seasons in real life. It reminds me of those 2 seasons where, there's one team leading the majority of laps, and then there's like Ferrari in 2023 that led, a few laps here and there. But then you've also got, especially when you see that basically, I guess, SKG almost have double the laps led of, SKG have almost double the laps led of, AZR. That's the surprising thing is, AZR have led 34% of the season based off of the first 6 races. SKG have led 61%. So the fact that they're just 7% away from having double, there's not even that many percent between the other teams. It's less than 5% of laps led between all of the other teams combined. So even if you got rid of that and gave it to SKG, they'd still have to eat into AZR's lead, But it is kind of going that way, It is going the way that AZR are kind of, they're starting to lose the title run, Out of the first, they before last race, they actually had, they actually led over 40% of race. They led about 39% of races. They lost 5% of that last week to other teams. 5%, by the way. So they lost a huge chunk of laps led this season. And that's the way it goes. But it seems to be a very one-way thing this season. The SKG lead huge amount of laps. And AZR sometimes have a really good race and lead a big chunk of laps. Sometimes they don't, sometimes they don't lead any laps. SKG are kind of that team that will, in 1 or 2 races this season hasn't led at all, but then the rest of the time they'll lead a decent chunk of laps as Dark Ben now comes into the pits, or they'll lead, but then you've got AZR who are kind of on the other side of it. They'll either lead no laps in a race, they'll kind of lead a few laps in a race, or they'll lead a lot of laps. So it's kind of SKG will lead a lot of laps or none, or AZR that will lead a few laps or quite a few laps. They'll lead maybe 15 laps in a race. Let's say in a 29 lap, and let's say a 30 lap race, they might lead 12 or 13 laps of it. At shortest they'll lead maybe 6 to 8 laps, and then they'll lead maybe at most maybe 18. Maybe 18 or 20. But on the other side of it, then you've got SKG, who will either lead like 1 or none, or will lead the whole race. Like here tonight, it's 2 laps led by Peck. It's now been 4 or 5 laps led by UFRT that's about to end. That's about to be, I think, their 4th or 5th lap led. And now SKG are going to go back to leading this race. They're going to go back to leading this race and getting more laps led. And it's these stats are kind of a thing that I like to see. I like seeing these laps, which is very interesting. I think these these topics and these statistics show that for all of the teams and all of the drivers, these, even though they're very small stats, they prove that sometimes one team doesn't always have to be leading the championship to be best. Like Peck has been third in qualifying form this season, ahead of TDR and UFRT, even though they're 4th in the championship and they were behind UFRT by 23 points. They still are, there goes Ruben past Toro, and there goes Baptiste defending his position from Yannick Saris. He's just broken a second behind, so he's lost quite a lot of time there. But as I was going to say, it's teams, it's very much teams like Peck, who have had not the best of seasons. They're not where they want to be. They've got less than half the points of the championship leaders from round 1. That's not where you want to be as a team. They're 23 points behind third. They're 60 points behind. They're over 60 points behind. I think they're 65 points behind second and 75 points behind first. The likelihood of them leading the championship or taking second or first is kind of out of the question now. Especially with how AZR and SKG perform. It's out of the question. The championship is kind of between the two of them. Yannick Sass now makes his way past Baptiste for P3 in this race. So Toro gets past his teammate for P5. Both these two working well as a team. At Peck working well. But it looks like tonight, Peck might actually be the top scoring team. They're currently 2nd, 5th, 6th. What's that? 10, 17, and then another 14. So 21, 31 points. SKG have got 16. On top of with the extra point for pole, that's 32 points tonight for Peck. Hislar gets a 3-second time penalty. For SKG though, it's 16 points. Then it's another 13. Sorry, it's another 12. So that's 28. And then another one, so 29. So officially, Peck will, for the first time this season, it will be Peck who scores the most points in a race. And it's actually, if I'm correct, it'll be the first time this season that AZR nor SKG have scored the most points in a season. In this season, it will be the first time that they haven't scored the most points out of a race weekend, which piques my interest. I'm gonna say it does pique my interest because it makes me go, hold up, wait. why is it that SKG and AZR have been so dominant this season? Why have they, for 6 consecutive races, been the top scoring team every single week? Non-stop, every single week. That's why they have, that's why SKG have 54 points in the lead, 52 points, sorry, in the lead of the constructors. That's why AZR are, 52 points ahead of, I think 52, 54. I think it's 52 points ahead of UFRT, the championship. Why do they have over double the points that PEC have? Why do AZR have, 50 points more? 40 points more. Why do they have 42 points more than UFRT? Why do they have almost double the points of PEC? Why is it so one-sided this season where it's kind of just the top 2 basically scoring more points combined than the other 3 teams? And it comes down to average pace this season. As you can see, a lot of moves happening out on the track. Dark Ben making a move there, and I think we also saw Clips making a move. Vibing Rogers well getting past because Hislar's coming into the pits. But, it does make me wonder sometimes, why is it so one-sided? Marty, unlucky there, 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. Still only 3 drivers with penalties this race. Only 3. So I'm not complaining too much. That's not too bad. 3 drivers, and none of it's come down to collisions or stupid things. It has just purely been track limits. So quite interesting to see. But 4 drivers. 4 drivers with that. Let's have a quick look at the tyres. Everybody's on hards except Top G, Dark Ben, and Clips. Everybody on quite differing sets of tyres. But only Hislar on a 2-stop. He stopped twice. You see some drivers with 3 seconds, some drivers with 10 seconds. Dark Ben with those 10 seconds, of course, of speeding in the pit lane. Ruben gets a 3-second time penalty as well. Not going to help his day particularly. This is the thing. In every stat this season, by the way, it's either been SK as Nilo gets a 10-second time penalty for corner cutting. Oh my god, AZR's day once again. Oh, and he's done. And into the wall. 4th retirement of the evening. Oh my god. Strange one today. Very strange one. AZR. They're not having a great day, are they? 2 drivers outside of the points. 1 driver with a penalty, which will probably put him about P10. And the other, Batiste, on his own in P4, fighting for a podium here. Not looking too good as now. He pulls into the pit lane. And he does get that speed under. But, making sure to, of course, not get that 10-second time penalty for speeding into the pit lane. What is he going to? He's going to another set of hard tyres for the next 15 laps. These have gone about 14, so he's going to have to stretch these tyres out quite well here. But hopefully he's on a fresh set, so he should be good. As he drops down to P12 in this race off of that. But let's see, how powerful is the undercut? We'll have to see how good the undercut actually is. And whether this is going to trigger pit stops from Yanni Casares, Speed G Master, and Zotic. Is it going to trigger that? Because they're all within about 1.6 to about 2 seconds of each other. Is it going to trigger pit stops from the top 3? Or not? We'll have to see. Because at the moment, I'd say it is mostly between PEC and SKG in this race. It's kind of how it's been from lap 1, as it has triggered pit stops. All of the top 3 come in. Whoa, and a big moment from Speed G Master. He's almost crashed into the back of Zotic. Let's see, is he going to get his pit stop done quickly? He's going to have to get it on point. He just gets out in front of Yanni. I was very, very worried he wasn't going to get in front of Yanni there. Where's Batiste coming in all of this? But look at that, 1 lap! 1 lap! And Batiste has gotten all the way up to the back of Zotic. Here he goes, around the outside. He's trying to make the move for the lead of the race, for the provisional lead of the race. This is going to be intense because now Speed G Master is stuck behind AWR. Yannick Casares is also stuck behind AWR as well. So both of them are losing time and it's just switched round. Speed G Masters just swapped with Batiste. That is something I cannot believe. Zotic, by the way, making his way past the box. The box trying to give Batiste a tough time. He's unable to. That wasn't really a tough time, but AWR is giving Speed G Master a really tough time. Same as Yannick Casares. Neither of them able to make the move. And now there goes Speed G Master with the DRS. Both of them get past finally, but took them a minute or two. Now Speed G Master is under assault from Yannick Casares down the inside. The attack of SKG has proven to be strong this season, but this time not very potent from Yannick Casares, but he's going to get that switch back. He's got the DRS as well, and Speed G Master down to P9 in this race, and that's really not what he needed here tonight, and that's just, that's unlucky when it comes down to pit stops, but that's the risk of trying to overcut somebody, and it clearly hasn't worked. But for Batiste, this is like an early Christmas present. It really is. It's like an early Christmas present for Batiste because he's now back into the running to potentially win this race. He's back into the chance of taking the lead and winning this race. I said this, didn't I? I said this, that it has mostly been SKG and AZR all season battling over that top spot. And it has mostly been SKG who's come out on top. Mardy into the pits. You can see that's how far ahead Batiste is ahead of all of his teammates. Is that he's that far ahead that there's one of his teammates who's just stopped in this race. You see he's keeping up Batiste is keeping up really well here with Zotic, but he's just slipped a little bit far behind. And he's going to have to try and do a very cumbersome move. Up the hill he goes. And he just makes that move with ease. The fresher tyres coming in. But he's almost a second behind. He's almost a second behind. It is just teetering on that 1 second mark between Zotic and Batiste. I know we've looked at Zotic, Batiste, and sort of those top four that we've seen all race. You know, I know we've very much focused on the top four. But this is where all of the conversation has been. This is where all of the action has been. This is where, not all of the action, but most of the action has been this race. You can see Batiste, though. Has he gotten that DRS? No, he hasn't. He's outside of a second, but they're back up into a 1-2. And that, once again, changes things. Frank Tank gets a 10-second time penalty for speeding into the pit lane. I don't know how many people in the no assists on Friday at Hungary and here have gotten penalties for speeding in the pit lane. As a few people have honourably mentioned, it is up to you to judge that. It is up to you to make sure to not misjudge where the pit lane starts and to not get a penalty, which I do agree with. It's always up to you to make sure to go and do that. Do not make a mistake of thinking it's earlier than it actually is. Because I know a lot of drivers who do that. Tons of drivers do that. And I don't complain at anybody for doing that. It's a mistake that I've made countless amounts of times when I was racing before. And, you know, it's probably a mistake I'll still make if I race in the future, you know. It's the way it goes. But yeah, it's interesting. But Zotic now off into the lead by 2 seconds. He's really held the pace this race. He really has. Yannick Casares has just set the fast lap of the race. He's also caught up to the back. Batiste. So is Speed G Master, who's also hanging on to the back of Yannick Casares. It's interesting to see how these two in the end are actually kind of working together to close up to the drivers in front. It's quite nice to see that they are doing that. Mardy now making his way past his line. Down the inside goes Frank Tank. Holy, he almost took out somebody, and he's almost taken out Hislar anyway. Holy, that was a little bit close from Frank Tank, and I have to say a bit of a ballsy move. Here comes the box as well. He's also going to make his way past Hislar down the inside into turn 4. That's a lovely move made by himself. And here's Clips, who's having a bit of a battle with the 2 TDR drivers of AWR and Mad Max Trixie. Both had a very, very difficult race here tonight. I have to say they've had a very difficult race. Just kind of sitting at the back. TDR. Oh, what do I say about TDR? I don't know. If I'm being honest, if I'm being honest with you, I would genuinely say that TDR this season have had the biggest struggle out of any team. They're the only team this season to fully have all of their drivers finish at the back of the pack with no drivers interrupting that. So like here, the best they could do is get in front of Clips. But they've been the only team to do that this season. They've done it twice, I believe, this season now. So TDR are having massive struggles at the moment over being able to perform. I've heard quite a few people say TDR have been kind of like AERT in, if I'm correct, no assists or assists. I think it's assists. Yeah, assists. They've been kind of like that. I can't remember which tier anymore, but it's been very similar in the races. TDR can't put it together. In the races, AERT can't either. But Yanni Casares makes his way past Batiste with, it looks like, quite a bit of ease. Batiste seems to be really struggling on his tyres. Those hard tyres just have not been good for Batiste this race. He just has not been where he was after the first pit stop. It just seems to have all fallen away for Batiste this race. But now, Zotic leads by over 3 seconds in this race, which is just crazy to think about. It's crazy, but it seems to be, and I will be honest here with you, it just seems to be SKG this season who get these race leads of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seconds. And, we know that AZR can win. But AZR haven't won by that sort of margin. They've won by a second or two. But they're not winning by over 3, 4, 5 seconds. They're not constantly gaining in the lead. There's always a battle for them. And you see today, Zotic has had that battle through that first stint. Through the second stint, he's not had so much. He didn't have as much of a battle with Speed G Master. He's got enough straight line speed to hold on to it. But then you see in this third stint, he's just completely broken away from everyone. He's broken away from second, third, and fourth of Yanni Casares, Batiste, and Speed G Master. He's 4 seconds in the lead of this race. That's a massive lead, as there's a TDR driver that's gone off there. You don't see this in, very often. I will say, it's not a common occurrence to see this. It's not a very common occurrence to see drivers, be in the lead by sort of 4 seconds. You never see this in no assist. You never see this in assists. It's very rare for you guys to see any leads, I'd say, when it crosses the line of over 2 seconds. And that's without safety cars, by the way. This season, we've had the least safety cars we've ever had this season. And, with having the least amount of safety cars we've ever had across all 3 tiers in this season by, I think it's reduced by about 80% or something compared to last season. I think we've only had 4 or 5 safety cars all season long. I've got to say that even through all of that, we still see drivers who are taking a massive lead. And of course, I've got to say, as Dark Ben retires from the race, and that is, I think, a virtual safety car. It's a virtual safety car. Drivers slow down a bit. But this could be a perfect point, because are we going to see Yanni Casares go around slowly to try and give his teammate a bit more of a lead? I'm not sure, but we'll have to see. But, yeah, we don't often see drivers who lead for sort of 20 laps non-stop. We don't have that a lot. We haven't had a driver this season get a Grand Slam. The last time a team got a Grand Slam was last season. And I think... Who was it? Who got a Grand Slam last season? I cannot remember for the life of me who got a Grand Slam last season. But racing is back underway. Sadly, tonight SKG won't have the honour of having a Grand Slam. Because, of course, you need all of their four drivers in the top four. Of course, they haven't got all four up there. One's down in 13th, the other down in 10th. So very unlikely. But they've still got first and second. So still a 1-2 finish. And good points for SKG and a further lead in the championship. The biggest debate I've heard about is more with AZR as Mardy makes his way past Frank Tank for P8. But the biggest conversation I've seen is, the biggest conversation I really would be interested to listen into or maybe look at would be AZR. What are they thinking in their team? What's going on in their camp? What are they thinking with the way the championship's going? They've gone from being challengers to now they're looking a bit off. They're looking like they're not 100% there. For the first I'd say for the first 5 races of the season, they've been there the whole time. But now, round 6 and 7, round 6 they were there. Don't get me wrong, round 6 they were there. But they made some mistakes which lost them the lead of the championship. And those mistakes hurt. As there goes Frank Tank again with a very ballsy move, trying to make Mardy make a mistake, but not yet from the cool and collected Aston Martin. But I do wonder what the conversation is going on behind AZR, because, I think they maybe after this race might have a conversation about why are they losing their grip on the championship? Why are they now dropping this many points? Yes, could be they're another podium. Back-to-back podiums, 2 podiums in 2 races, but why aren't they challenging for the win? Why is SKG almost 5 seconds up the road from them, winning-wise? Why are these mistakes happening? And that's, I think, one of the biggest conversations we're going to see with SKG, maybe this season's, if they don't bring it back, I think by round 10, if they don't have that championship lead, we'll have to see, of course, how the standings go after tonight. But even with that, if they don't bring that championship lead down to below 20 points before round 10, because I suspect tonight will be far past 20 points, because this will be 2 points here, and then another 4 points gained, as there's quite a bit of battling going on further back over P9 here. The box trying to make the move past Frank Tank. Not able to, but without penalties, the box will finish P8 anyway, so 3 points for himself. I mean, at the moment, AZR on for points-wise, they're on for 12. And then another 2 points, so 14 points compared to SKG were getting 16, then another 14. So taking a brilliant 30 points away from this evening, and then another 3, so 33 points this evening. Losing that much, losing that many points is just, you can't have at this point in the championship, losing nearly 20 points, losing 19 points in a single race. It's going to go from a 10-point gap. We're going to have a 29-point gap in the championship between first and second in the championship. And, first and second, 29 points, that's going to be the biggest gap it's been, by the way, since round 1. Since, we haven't had a gap that big, since, all season. It'll be the first time the gap has actually gone above, I believe, 20 points this season. And 29 points, that's a pretty big mountain to climb for teams like AZR, and you can see the box already trying to get past. Oh, and the box! He's round! I had a feeling in my gut that that might happen, but he's round, but I suspect that will be probably reported, most likely reported, to the stewards. A penalty given to the FRLT driver there. I'm not sure what happened there exactly, but SKG look like they're strolling to another victory this season. 7 races, and I believe this will be their 4th victory of the season. As Vibe Rog now retires. Oh my god. I cannot believe 6 drivers retired from this race. I know Kimi was having technical problems, so realistically only 5 retired on purpose, but 1 retired with technical issues. So 6 retirements so far this evening. 2 of them with UFRT, 2 of them with TDR. TDR looking like, again, they're going to be coming out with no points again this week. 2nd race in a row without points. But just watching Zotic as he's about to begin lap 36 of 36. But we've got to look a little bit behind, and we actually got to look on board with Batiste, as now Zotic begins the final lap of the evening. And heading down into turn 1, here comes Batiste all the way back. What a long way dive bomb, but he's gone too deep. And he's gone way too deep. And down to P3 he goes. Oh my god. He had to make the move, and I do get that. But he has just killed any chance of getting past now. Has that just lost him? P2. And is he just going to be holding on to the position? AWR now goes past the box for position. And now Mad Max Trixie as well, trying to get past Clips. Clips drops down a position. SKG versus TDR stuff going on. I cannot believe I'm even saying that here. That the bottom 4 places are being battled between first in the championship and last in the championship. So very interesting to talk about. But we've got to look. As Zotic makes his way round, 1 final corner to go. It is going to be Zotic. A dominant day for not only himself, but for SKG as he wins in Brazil FRLT 4's season number 5, round number 7. As Yanni Casares finishes 2nd, Batiste 3rd, Speed G Master 4th. Toro is going to come home in a brilliant 5th place. Ruben is going to come in P6. Top G P7. Let's see, where does Mardy go? Mardy stays P8. Frank Tank goes P9, but he gets another penalty for an unserved one. So he goes down to P10. AWR goes P11. Frank Tank drops down. The box does go P10 in the end. And that is that. I have to say, what an interesting race. That was a race not filled with chaos, but I would say filled with tactical action and tactical racing from everybody. As you can see, it's SKG, and it's SKG's team of Ferrari in the Ferrari suit that win this time around. Lately, it's been more the McLaren that wins. Don't think they've won with their Ferrari side yet. This time they have, and it's a win in Brazil. Of course, AZR also on the podium once again. It is AZR on that podium. I think they've now been on the podium, I think all 7 races this season, or they've had one of the highest amounts of being on the podium. But let's go through the order. As you can see, fastest lap, Yanni Casares takes it to an extra point. Extra point for Yanni Casares. But let's go through the order. It is Zotic who wins from 2nd on the grid. Then it's Yanni Casares, Batiste. Then Speed G Master, Toro, Ruben, Top G, Mardy, Hislar, and the box to end out the top 10. Then it's AWR, Clipsy, then Mad Max Trixie, and Frank Tank. Then in our retirements being Vibe Rog, Dark Ben, Nilo, Kimi, Rob, and Sakata. What an end to tonight's race. It's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable what we've seen. Just brilliant racing. Some of the best racing this season I think I've seen between some of these guys. Like, you know, this was one of, I think, the best races when it comes down to racecraft and the level of racecraft, but interesting. But yeah, very interesting. In the end, guys, that is the end of the race. You know, that is the end for me for the race here. And the stream. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Also make sure to click on that notification bell to know about all the content we're going to be doing from short streams and videos. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. And I'll see you very soon. See you again on Wednesday for assists. Goodbye. Look at this! Look at the battling, and it is a safety car! Here comes Nika into slow corner. Whoa! Almost! And away we go here in the Netherlands for F1 down towards the next cover. Oh, it is! Oh my god! Whoa!